Good afternoon, everybody. Hi, my name is Dave Etkin. I'm with the Louisville Small Business Development Center. Just a quick check. Hopefully everybody can hear me and see the presentation. So while we give everybody a quick moment to connect and get everything checked out and get settled in, I'll tell you just a little bit about the Kentucky Small Business Development Center. We are a statewide network with locations that serve all 120 counties in Kentucky. And the Kentucky Small Business Development Center network is part of a national network serving all 50 states. We are funded by the U.S. Small Business Administration and the University of Kentucky primarily, although a lot of other organizations do support us. And our primary goal is we offer no-cost free assistance with market research, opportunity assessments and feasibility studies, business plan development, financial modeling and projections, identifying pre-venture and growth capital, and most importantly, loan packaging and capital sourcing. So again, my name is Dave Etkin. I'm the director here in Louisville at the Louisville Small Business Development Center. With me today is the assistant director here in Louisville is Tony Sears. Say hello, Tony.
Hello, everyone.
And then most importantly, we have with us today Michael Ashcraft, who is the senior area manager for the U.S. Small Business Administration here in the District of Kentucky. Hello, Mike.
Good afternoon.
So, well, I'm glad everybody could join us today. These are pretty trying times, and everybody, oddly enough, is kind of in the same boat with being shut down and no business and wondering what the next step is and what opportunities for help is out there. And top of mind for everyone is these disaster loans provided by the Small Business Administration. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So our format today is pretty simple. We're going to spend just a few minutes walking through some of the criteria for these loans, these economic injury disaster loans. We'll show you some of the slides of some of the forms that you'll need to have or be familiar with. And then the rest of the time, we're going to open it up for Q&A. You guys know from talking to lots of you, all of us know that you have specific questions, concerns that you'd like to talk and get some help with. So hopefully we'll have enough time to do that for the next hour to answer your questions as much as possible. This will be recorded. You can access it later if you need to go back and access things. And as always, we're all here to help. So, so going forward here, let's just get started and talk a little bit about the loan itself. So the loan is for basically small businesses, not for individuals. Most nonprofit organizations are eligible to. So Michael, there's some distinction on the nonprofit. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I can talk a little bit about that. These loans are for any private nonprofit. Public nonprofits are different. In fact, SBA and our normal loan programs were prohibited from lending to any nonprofit. These are special cases. So yes, if they're a private nonprofit, they're eligible. If they have questions, we encourage them to send an email to the Disaster Center web portal and/or phone calls, and those folks can take them through that process to verify their eligibility or whether they are or not.
Yeah, good. We've had a lot of questions about the requirements, the approval requirements. So the SBA says that you have to have acceptable credit history. I think they're relaxing some of those credit requirements. Tony, did you get some information or guidance on that today?
Yes, David, I did. Basically, what I've been hearing is about anything lower than a 600 is about this. Anything 600 or higher, I guess, would be the credit history that I've been hearing, okay. And that you can have a bankruptcy that does not necessarily disqualify you. Does that go along with what you were hearing, Michael?
I have not actually heard a number. The credit score. The scoring is done a little bit different on the regular SBA loans. It's not the credit score we're used to with our private credit history. All I know is that they have said they've relaxed everything. I just don't know what that cutoff point is. All I can say is don't opt out. Go ahead and apply, because don't think that you may have a credit history or credit score that's not acceptable. Just apply.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, as part of the determination process, the SBA will want to determine that the business has the ability to repay in the future, at some point in the future. And also, the business must be physically located in the disaster declared county. All counties in Kentucky have been declared a disaster. But the distinction is you can't have a home office in another state that's not a disaster area, but you do a lot of business in Kentucky. That doesn't qualify for you. The terms are pretty nice. So the loans are up to $2 million at a 3.75 rate for small businesses, 2.75 for nonprofits on a 30-year term. So the loans are pretty nice. There's no prepayment penalty, I understand. And yesterday we were on a call. Haven't verified this, but I heard that 12 months, no payments for 12 months on the loan. Is that right, Mike? Did you hear that?
That is correct, David. Right now they've got a 12-month deferment.
Yeah.
So typically it's 4 months for the disaster program, or up to 4 months. In this case, it is currently 12 months. That may change. Things are changing rapidly, but at this time, that's what we're looking at. So that gives folks a long period in which to be able to have to start repaying.
Right. So let me just pause here for a second. Up on the top there's a chat button. I know you guys already have questions. Go ahead and start typing in your questions there, and we'll start loading those up and start to answer them here shortly. But let's see, we've got some coming in already. Good. Okay. So as far as applying for the loan, you can apply two ways. You can apply through paper and mail it in. It's really recommended that you do an online application. However, over the last few days, we've learned a few things. Tony, you want to talk about browsers and some of those other little tricks that we came across?
Yes, sure. It is recommended that you use Internet Explorer version 10 or higher. That you make sure that you've enabled your cookies and your JavaScript and allow pop-ups to be shown for that site. Google Chrome right now has been experiencing some problems, so it is recommended to stick with the Internet Explorer 10 or higher version.
Okay, good. And so, as you can imagine, the site has been overwhelmed. In fact, the site's not even active today. It's down for maintenance. So you can't even apply today. What we found also is that if you can get through this process online, the online application process quickly, you'll have less opportunity to experience freeze-ups or kickouts. So in the email that you received as notice from this for this webinar, and if you didn't receive a notice and are joining through a Facebook link or something, we'll send these to you. But there's about 12 forms that you would use for the paper application. And we recommend that you print these out and actually fill them out and gather everything together and have them completed before you go online, so that you have everything you need right there together and ready to go, so you can quickly make the application. We've had quite a few people that have been successful doing it this way. They've gotten their loan number, their case number, and they're waiting to hear back from the SBA. Anything you need to add to that, Michael?
Let's see. Getting back to the web portal, yeah, it is down, at least right before we joined this call. Don't know how long it'll be down. I know they have already expanded capacity and are trying to continue to do that. It may be up any moment, but what Dave says about printing the forms and filling those out, that's part of the issue, because if somebody gets online or gets in the queue and then starts filling out the forms, it could take them an hour or two. Whereas if they print all that out, they're able to enter it quickly into the text boxes. They can go through that process much more quickly, which saves them time. and allows other people to get in the queue. And a lot of that is screens freezing up and things because they're taking so much time, or the system actually times them out. So another recommendation is save your work frequently, just in case. But hopefully, as people get the word, trying to post applications out and complete them before you go on to the portal, that's going to help us all.
Right. All right, so what we want to do next here for just next couple minutes is we're just going to walk through and show you the forms that that you'll want to fill out. And there's a couple of little things that that people have had problem with time and time again. So we just want to kind of point those out for you, and then we'll start taking some questions. So on the first document that you'll get in the list that we have here is kind of just a step-by-step process that kind of shows you the three-step process to apply. Most importantly is on the second page, where on the left-hand column it shows you the documents, supporting documents you'll need to upload with your application. So make sure you have all that, everything scanned in and PDF form ready to upload. And there's the links to apply on the right-hand side there. So that's pretty easy there. So here's where we start to get into a little question and answer. So there's two of these application forms. This is the 5C form, and then there's just the regular form 5. This is for sole proprietors. So if you use your Social Security number when you file your taxes, if you file a Schedule C with your personal taxes, you are a sole proprietor. You may have a assumed name that you're doing business under, you're still a sole proprietor. So you would fill out this form and go through it and have it ready. When you go to the online portal, it'll give you it'll give you a couple check boxes, and that's where you will designate whether you're going to be filling out as a sole proprietor or a business. Anything else on that, Michael?
No, it's a very straightforward form.
Yep. And this is for small business. So if you are an LLC, a regular corporation, an S corporation, this is what you would fill out as part of your application process. So on both forms, if you'll notice under up at the top there, you want to check this box where it says economic injury EDIL loan. That is the box there. Because you have to tell it which to. Let's see what. There's another. I've had a couple of people get stuck on this next one on where it says applicant's name. That is not your name. That is your business's name. The business is the one that's actually doing the application, not you. So you would put the business name there and the federal ID number. So if you're an LLC with you and your wife, put the LLC's names there. You guys aren't there. You're one of you guys will do the contact down at the bottom as the contact for the loan. Anything else on that, Mike?
No, not on that. Again, that's fairly straightforward. Just make sure they're using the correct one, whether it's the 5 or 5C form. The 5C, again, is David said earlier, is the sole proprietor form. This is for all the other business legal entities. Right.
So this is about a 6-page form. And if you'll notice down, I guess we should have said this before because we'll start talking about this. We get used to doing the jargon, but if you look at the very lower left corner underneath the bottom line of the form, there's some very tiny letters. That's where the form numbers are down there at the bottom. So this is the form 5. When you print those out, look for the form numbers down there at the bottom. So this is about 6 pages of information that you'll have to fill out.
Excuse me,
Dave said the link. Go ahead, Tony.
I have a question that kind of pertains to this.
Mm-hmm.
So Kristen Arnold, thank you for reaching out. She said, I am a sole proprietor, however, I am an LLC. So would she use this form or would she do the form 5? She'll
use the form 5. She is an LLC, a single member LLC. So since she files a tax return to the state, not the, she's not a sole proprietorship. She is an LLC. So that would be under the business loan application.
Thank you.
Just a comment about the length of the forms. About half of these forms that have multiple pages includes instructions or definitions and things of that nature.
Mhm.
So particularly the first two forms here that David's showing you, just most of it is just basic contact information, etc. And one thing to remind folks over and over again as they're going through this, there will be places to put more than one cell phone number or more than one email address, because that helps if somebody can't reach you, the loan officer looking at your application and all the documents. If they can't reach you on one number and maybe you're able to take the call on another number, just make it easy for them to reach you as quickly as possible, and that's going to help expedite your application.
That's a good tip. All right, then, this is a loan and it is guaranteed loan. So, if you've ever been to a bank and asked to borrow money, that you'll always have to fill out this form of 4506T, a request for tax transcripts. So, just fill this out, and this is your name personally, not the business's name. This is for you personally. That's pretty self-explanatory. You also, as part of any credit application, you'll have to include a personal financial statement in the list of documents that we've sent you, or will send you if you don't have them, is an Excel spreadsheet that is a personal financial statement. This has the formulas in it. Just kind of fill those out and it'll do all the math for you. If you look up at the top there where it says John Doe, unless you're John Doe, put your name there and the date as of whatever date you're filling it out. And make sure you sign this. This is not an actual document that they'll accept unless you sign and date at the bottom. And basically, you just list all your assets, everything you own. We are not asking. I don't think the SBA is asking for make sure that things have to be to the penny, but be truthful as possible with your assets and debts and income. Anything you need to add to that, Michael? From the SBA?
No, actually, the form that you're providing is a very user-friendly one that makes it very easy for them, because I believe you've got all the formulas embedded in the document. Is that correct, Dave? So it'll add all that up for them. Right.
Yeah. On the income side, if all your income comes from the business, then as form of draws or owner's draws, I would put that under other income. If you get W-2 income from your business plus owner's draws, put your wages up on top, and any other income that you can have. There's some blank spaces there. So if you have, other dividend income, other income streams, just kind of add those up. There is a second page to this, and it's more of a detailed schedule where you list all your liabilities and assets there in detail with payments and things like that. I would start with this page first and get that all filled out and make sure this page agrees with the first page. So I want to say we have a ton of questions, so I think I'll speed it up so we can get going on that. And then you need to show a schedule of liabilities, basically any loans, mortgages, trade debts, accounts payable. Just kind of list this out. I do recommend people, basically we're kind of in a cash flow crunch with our businesses. Filling this out, whether you apply for the loan or not, is a good technique to get your handle around things on your battle to survive going forward. So this is a very great document to kind of put together. Anything you need to add to that, Michael or Tony?
Great point there.
And then we have, as my understanding is this is not like a traditional loan application where you say, I need $50,000. The SBA, the underwriting process will make a determination as to the amount that they'll grant you. Is that correct, Michael?
That's correct.
Yeah. The way to do that is this form. They'll look at what you've done in the past and then your projections for the future. And based on that, they'll calculate what your working capital needs are, and that is your loan amount. So if on the left-hand page is a 2-page document, this is Form 1368 for those of you keeping total. You would do the 12 months, January through December on the first column. If you've been in business for 3 years or more, just basically break out your sales for those months, fill those columns out, and then year to date on the last column. On the second page, this is where you would project future losses. So at the top, it has the loss range from to, and so I'm thinking 6 months, wouldn't you, Michael? 6-8 months. I'm even here until.
Yeah, go ahead and you can put as long, or maybe you want to go to the end of the year. You know, whatever you put in there, they'll probably discuss that with you, and you may be able to write a note at the bottom. This is forecasted out through the end of the year or through the end of October or whatever.
Yeah. So basically, this is just one column projection of of your total sales for that period that you're projecting. Cost of goods sold and all your expenses and net profit. If you have, let's say that over the last 3 years have been kind of steady, but this year you suddenly on March 1st got this great contract, which has just been canceled, and you ramped up for it. I think that I would write that up and add that as an additional document and say this is what happened, and because that's an extraordinary circumstance that they kind of need. I would need to know, I would think. So, anything else on that one, Michael?
No, I think that's a great point. And if you don't have enough space at the bottom of that form, insert another blank sheet of paper and put that right behind if you have additional information you need to provide. The more information you can provide, if you need some extra space over and above what the forms allow, please do that, because they look through all of that and they'll probably reach out to you if they have any questions. But that way they can digest the info you have and then kind of think through all that as they're communicating with you.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the links to the forms that you should have seen or gotten the email today, and we'll send this all to you again just to make sure. These are all the forms we just kind of went through, and I'll leave this up for a little bit, but that's my contact info and Tony's and our website where you can contact us directly if you need to. We'd be happy to help you in any way. And now let's get to the most important part. Tony, got any questions for us today?
Yes, Glenn Hibbler, thank you for reaching out. He wants to know the timing from submittal of the loan to approval.
Mm-hmm. Great question there, Glenn. And what we are hearing right now is that once the application is completed, all the documents are uploaded and they've received all of those, it can take 2 to 3 weeks. They are hoping they can cut that down time-wise, but right now they're very overwhelmed. But that is their target of 2 to 3 weeks to review all the documentation and go back and forth with you if there are any questions. Again, the more information you can provide and the more complete your application, the sooner they can go through all of that. Then once that's all done, the application or the loan is approved and the loan is closed. 5 to 7 days after that, you get the check from the Treasury directly to you. It is not a bank loan. They're not going to mail it that way. It's not like normal loans. Again, this is an exceptional situation. And they're constantly trying to even tighten up that timeline. But somewhere in that 3 to 4 week period right now is what we're seeing. Could be shorter. We hope so, but we can't promise.
Yeah.
Okay. My next question is from Rachel Wixier. I have just opened up my small business as of September 2019 and have not yet filed taxes on my business since it has been open. What can I do if I do not have my tax docs yet?
Not an unusual situation with a brand new business. Most people haven't filed the 2019 taxes yet. Provide what you can. Also, any projections, hopefully, that you had prior to opening, you can use that information. All the expenses that you've incurred up to now, any documentation you can put together. to provide to them would be very useful. Just because you're a brand new business without a lot of history does not mean you are ineligible, and they strongly encourage you, regardless of the age of your business, to go ahead and apply.
Yeah. What do you got to lose?
Next question is from Jennifer Brown. She said, I had to fill out the paper form. I did not have 11 forms and did not see a list of items I needed to scan and submit. If I sent my application in by mail, will I get a response requesting documents needed? And then she also has a question about her credit score. Is it based on personal credit or business from her LLC?
It's personal score, unfortunately, and I don't know. I highly recommend that you not mail those forms in and do the online submission. If you need some help, contact us and we'll see what we can do to help you out on that.
Yeah, what David is saying about the mail-in versus online is true. Once they get that in the portal, they can react to it immediately. It goes into somebody's queue. Mailing it takes time. Then somebody has to open up the mail, sort it, get it to either somebody to enter that. That's just going to take a lot more time. Please try to get as complete a package together as possible. Rather that you take an extra day to get all the forms together than to send things in piecemeal. Talked to a gentleman this morning who sent it in partially, and they can't match it all up yet. So it's just cost him some time. He thought he was saving, but it's going to end up taking more time than he thought. So a complete package, or as complete as possible. If you can't get everything together, explain perhaps that there's another document that's coming shortly. And once you get the application in and it's complete, it'll let you know everything's completed, and then they can start reviewing your application that way.
Yeah.
This question comes from Ronald Murray. He wants to know if the personal financial statement is only required for sole proprietorships.
No, it's required for all applications. Yeah.
John Lindsay, he wants to know if this slide deck will be made available to participants after the webinar.
Absolutely. We'll send everything out to you.
Wave McFarland wants to check. They need to know what to check, in box 15 on form 5.
Box 15.
We were talking about that a couple of days ago. The print version, if I understand it correctly, the print version is a little different than the online version. What I mean by that, when you check at the top on every application, which is something I should have mentioned early on, you need to check EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Some of the other required boxes there go inactive, because depending on your circumstance, for certain other types of disasters, say, a physical disaster to property is different than what we're going through now.
Right.
Because I think that question 15 asks what kind of damage, and things like machinery or building or whatever. In this case, it's all lack of income. I don't believe that's an option at the bottom. But when you check online, EIDL, then you'll probably see that change a little bit. Am I remembering that correctly, Dave? Are you looking at the form?
Yeah, that's right. So on box 15, if you don't check that, then it'll be the amount of estimated loss, and that gives you a real estate, machinery, and inventory. So what we're really talking about is loss of income. Basically, gross profit is what they're talking about. So you may have go back. If you've gotten that far, you've got an account. Go back and then make sure you check the right box there up at the top, and then it'll switch up the form and give you the right boxes to answer.
Okay, thank you all. William Walker, thank you for staying in here with us. He wants to know, how are the loan amounts determined?
Yeah.
Again, that is based on the projections you provide to the Small Business Administration, your projected loss going forward. So again, they'll ask for your past income and expense and net profit, or your income for the last 3 years, or however long you've been in business. You project forward what you think the loss will be for through the next end of the year or 6 months or whatever you determine. They'll use that information to assign you a number based on what their underwriting criteria as far as what that loss will be.
Yeah.
Ronald
And
Murray.
again,
Go ahead.
I was just going to add, again, this is a working capital loan up to $2 million, and they have been doing this for decades. They've got good data that supports these circumstances. What I mean by that is they can look at what your history shows, what you have projected, what your expenses are, and you'll probably get enough to keep you flush with cash for the necessary expenses you have until things settle back down.
Yeah.
And you can talk to them if you don't think it's enough. You can let them know that before you move forward, and they are willing to reconsider. Oftentimes people will get, they're told this is the amount they're going to get, and you don't have to take that full amount if you don't think you need it. And you can make a quick loan modification for less. You can request for more, but that's towards the end of the process. So just get everything in, apply right now, and get the documents together, and you'll see, how that all shakes out for you.
Yeah, I think that the marching orders for the SBA, is my understanding, is to help as many people as they possibly can. So yep. I don't think this is I don't think they're working to exclude anybody if they can. I mean, there are going to be some situations where they can't make a loan because of some different rules and laws that they just can't figure out how to get around. But they do want to help everybody if possible.
Right. Thank you all. Ronald Murray, he is asking, does interest accrue during the deferment period?
Yes, I believe it does from the moment that that money, you have access to that money. But again, all that is accruing is the interest on that. If you don't need to start using it, you don't have to. But I think most people want that access to that cash right away.
Yeah.
Even though you don't have to pay on the principal, the interest will accrue.
Right, because this is a payment. It's not a line of credit. So you get all the money. If you're awarded money, you get the money. So you have the money, which means you got to pay interest on the money.
Yeah. Now, something else to be aware of: they don't usually, if it's a smaller amount, they may send it all. But in many cases, if it's much larger amounts, they're going to send it out in increments. You don't need to pay interest on a full amount if you don't need that full amount right away. So it sort of works like a line of credit, but in other ways it doesn't. I mean, once it's activated, the interest will start accruing, but you won't get that full amount perhaps until later in the cycle.
Speaking of interest, Renee True wants to know if the interest rate is fixed the entire time of the loan.
Yes.
Renee, thank you for asking that. Yes.
Okay.
If it's a 3-year term or it's a 5-year term, whatever it is, it's 3.75% fixed. For a business, 2.75% for private nonprofits.
Thank you. Carol Luce, she says, on the form, it asks for legal name, but won't accept our name because our business name has an ampersand in it. Do we just type the word "and" instead?
Yeah, whatever it takes to get that through that to the next text box, and you can provide some explanation. I'm not sure about. I've never heard that about the ampersand. That's an interesting issue, but yeah, type it all out. Hopefully that'll solve your issue.
Make sure you're doing that in the applicant's legal name. That's where the business name goes.
Okay. Richard Atkins, he says he has hired labor contract employees, and he says, how do I fill out the number of employees on the application when all of his employees are contracted out?
Well, they're not employees, they're contractors.
Okay.
Do you agree with that, Michael?
Yeah. I mean, there's a clear distinction between contractors and employees. So yeah, if you don't have anybody who's working for you technically as an employee, and if you're not quite sure, you should get clarification on that. The IRS has some good info on what's an independent contractor versus an employee.
Yep.
Usually it's the opposite, where people are claiming they're independent contractors when technically they're employees based on what the requirements are set by the business. So it's an interesting issue, but I don't think, if I understand his circumstances, he has employees.
Thank you. Marilyn Marchant, she says, what if you have 3 businesses that you file a consolidated tax return? Do you have to file 3 loan applications?
My understanding is yes. I've not heard of anybody that files a consolidated tax return. That could be a question you want to ask, call up the 1-800 number and ask for clarification. Worst case scenario, you have to send in 3 separate ones. Once you do that first one, the other 2 will go pretty quickly as well. But before you submit all of that, I would go ahead and talk with somebody, or at least send them an email. There's an email address there as well.
Okay. Stephen Sauerbeck, he's on Form 5, and he says, we had no property damage, but was not able to skip question number 8 and provide insurance info. Why? Was that all right?
Sounds like
he
hit the wrong box again on the, I don't think he hit the EIDL
Okay.
number.
At the very top of that form, they must, in every situation that we're talking about here, they must check EIDL.
Yeah.
For the economic injury disaster loan program. Otherwise, it's a different type of situation with other disasters where there's physical damage to property they own.
Right.
So that may eliminate his issue.
Yeah.
Again, the printed form can't show every option. When you're on the or in the web portal and checking that box, you'll see what I mean about some of those options going away.
Okay. Nicole Brassington says she has 5 owners in her company, each with 20% or more ownership. So does each owner need to complete the personal financial statement?
Yes.
Anybody over 20%, 20% or over has to provide that information. And also a 45T, 4506T.
Patrick Ford wants to know, are electronic signatures acceptable, or must you print, sign, scan, and email?
Everything that I have heard about forms in the conversation says that they should print the form, sign it, scan it, and then upload it. So I don't know. I don't think that electronic signatures are acceptable right now.
Okay. Scott McReynolds says, is a personal guarantee required for nonprofits?
That's a good question that we have not had.
Yep. Not yet.
Not yet. I don't know the answer to that one, honestly. That's a good question, though. That is a really good question. We'll find out about that and get back to you.
Okay. Let's see. Are there employee thresholds with this particular loan?
No. None. I mean, the only question is, for certain types of businesses, you must be a small business. And if you're at the max end of it, where you go over, and every industry is different. It's not just, some people say 500 employees or less. That's not technically correct. If you're in certain industries, it might be 150. Others, it might be 1,000 if it's a manufacturing concern, certain types of manufacturing. 99% all business in the state and throughout the country is classified as small, so it probably won't be an issue. But if you have no employees, you still can and should apply. If you have, several employees, that won't be an issue. It's not as though you have to have a certain minimum amount of employees before you can apply.
Okay. Cynthia Tam, she says, I am a sole proprietor who does not have a separate business account or a business credit card. She needs the assistance to pay expenses that have been charged on her credit card. How does she identify these business-related expenses that are on the credit card statements?
Well, again, you would list on the schedule of liabilities, I would just list them as you would any other business expense. It is part of the application process, though.
Form Stephen Sauerback says that Form 1368 was in the email but not online. There was a Form P019, so is that used instead?
Could be if that's been changed, but the idea is. Are you looking, Michael?
No, 1368 is the form that lists the all of the monthly sales. So yeah. I'm not sure what did Mr. Sauerbach say? P019.
Yes,
I'm not sure what that is. Maybe it's a very similar or identical form, but it's 1368 is the one that Dave had showed earlier with monthly income or monthly sales. And then on the back page of it, it showed future losses, revenue losses, et cetera.
Right.
Okay.
But I'm looking at the form right now. It is 1368.
Okay. Holly Butters, hi Holly, and Gwen Orduno, they both have the same question. Personal liabilities or business liabilities, do they list that like such on their student loans for their schedule of liabilities? Is that correct or not?
I'm not sure. They're looking at the business, but they're also looking at things, from the business. If that's your income to pay your personal expenses, you could perhaps, depending on how much space you need, either put that below, making clear that these are, student debt, et cetera, are personal expenses, or put it on another sheet that you can attach behind it, just to give them the full picture.
Okay.
But again, this is a business loan. Just this shouldn't be used really to pay other things, but indirectly, if it helps you stay in business so that you can pay your personal obligations, that's fine to go ahead and include it. But that's not really what they're looking at. They're looking at the business and how the business was impacted.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you make revisions to your applications that once it's been submitted?
Good question. I don't think you can go back in there based on a conversation that I've had with a person this morning. He submitted things and he wanted to amend a couple of the documents. I think they might have to go ahead and kind of review that. You can go if you've got and should have an application number, maybe send an email. You can call, but email gives you a tracking mechanism and say on this, here's your application number and document such and such I would like to amend. And I think at that point they can go in and they can, whatever the proper term is, open it up for that submittal of an updated document, and then begin, then shut it down again so they can review it. So there is a way. It's just it's going to take somebody, I think, how it works, where they physically have to go in there and release that so that the updates can be made.
Yeah, and so that's why it's so important to make sure you're prepared before you make your online application. Get everything together, be familiar with all the forms, what's going to be asked before you jump in there and try the online portal.
Yeah. And again, getting back to, slowing it down, I know the sense of urgency everyone has, but rather to take an extra hour or even a day to ensure that you've got everything to the best of your ability, because it may ultimately save you a lot of time on the back end. Plus, it's a quicker process, and it frees up the portal for other people more quickly who are behind the queue or behind you in the queue.
Yeah.
I've gotten several questions asking where would this recording be? Can they find this after today?
So it'll be up on the KSBDC website, several other places, but we will make it all available to everybody. You'll get an email. I think tomorrow I was told that where you can access the recording and go back through. And then we'll certainly email the forms out to you and the slides and some other things that we can think of that you might be interested in.
I've got a question here where it says, I've been in business for about 2 years and 5 months. Do I still qualify to apply for this loan?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
One question from Larry Williams. We have a current 7A line of credit through a bank. This requires personal guarantees. Are we still eligible for this loan, and does it require additional guarantees?
Yes and yes.
yes, and yes.
This is totally different. Having a 7A loan doesn't preclude you from being able to apply for this. It doesn't knock you out of being eligible for this just by having another loan, but you are personally guaranteeing it as well.
I have a follow-up question from Patrick.
Oh, excuse me, just a second, Tony,
Sure.
just a second. By the way, SBA, and I want to put a disclaimer here. This is the best of our information right now. Things could change later, but right now, banks are being allowed to defer payments on SBA 7A loans, 504 loans, microloans. The lender can do that for up to, depending on circumstances, up to 9 months, anywhere from 3 to 9 months. So if you are not aware of that, you can contact your lender and ask them if they're going to allow that. That's an important point for those who have existing loans with SBA. Not only there are two separate pools of funds, but we understand that this is an extraordinary situation, and scraping together what little cash you have in order to pay on another loan doesn't help you with keeping the business as an ongoing concern right now.
Right.
So ask your lender about that if they haven't already communicated that with you.
And I think they don't have to get prior SBA approval for those deferments either.
Yes, that's part of what we have been starting, lender training webinars just like this, specifically for our SBA lenders. They have, we're getting the word out as quickly as we can. We're getting a lot of questions from the lenders too. Normally, if it's beyond a certain time frame, say 6 months instead of 3, they need prior approval from SBA in many of those circumstances. We're not requiring that now. So loan deferments, even beyond that, are being made available, and it's not, that's something you can talk about with your lender.
Yeah. So Tony, here's a question I see from Christina Joyce. Hey, Christina.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take a disaster assistance loan from your local lender, are you eligible for the SBA disaster loan, the EIDL? Mike?
Yeah.
Can you repeat that again? A loan from a local lender, not an SBA loan?
Right.
Sure. Yeah, you can EIDLs, economic injury disaster loans, are a whole separate pool of funds, and they're not looking at other loans out there. So it's not going to knock you out from being eligible for this kind of loan.
Yeah. I think we've seen some situations where a company may be successful getting a little bit of line of credit, but that's not enough to get them through this long period of time. So, layering this loan on top of it, will make that business survive. So yes, let's apply for the loan.
Apply. Yeah.
That's right.
So I have a follow-up question from Patrick Ford. He wants to know if you have like 5 employees versus a company that has 400 employees, would that company that has 400 employees get preference over a company with 5 people?
No, that they might get more money, but they don't have any more preference. As long as the company with 400 is still in their industry classified as a small business, they are every bit as eligible as you. However, that doesn't mean they move to the front of the line and you're back there. They look at it, what's coming in the queue. That is it. And they're processing them as quickly as humanly possible. So, when you get yours in, right now there is a finite amount of money for this disaster recovery. If we need more money, we'll go back to Congress and request that.
Yeah.
And it's not broken down by state either. Now, you need to file based on the Kentucky Disaster Declaration in most cases, but it's not as though when Kentucky's applicants get to a certain level, then nobody else in Kentucky can apply for the loan. So they do not look at any of that. Just apply.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. If you are a nonprofit, how do you complete a personal financial statement? That's been the question from a lot of nonprofits.
Well, again, you have to be a private nonprofit, and I cannot answer much more than that. They need to determine if they're a private nonprofit. They may need to talk with whoever helps them file their taxes, maybe on the legal side, whoever helped them set up the nonprofit. I'm not sure. I would guess that whoever is on the board of that nonprofit, maybe. But those are different circumstances, and this isn't our normal world because we don't normally deal with nonprofits. It could be a question you could submit to the, to the portal, the disaster portal email address, or talk with somebody there. Maybe in the interim, try and fill out all the other forms first and see if we can get some information out there. We are trying to compile as much information about the nonprofit circumstances as we can, because that's probably the single biggest category of questions.
Yeah. Yeah. There's not a lot of clarifications.
Yeah. Everybody's working hard to try and get that. We can't account for every circumstance, but they're sure trying to get as much together in some fact sheets as they can provide.
Yes, exactly. Okay. All right. Got another question, Tony?
Yes. Let me see here. One question from Clinton Hurt. He says, how do we calculate the loss if we don't know how long we'll be shut down?
Yeah, well, everybody's in the same boat, aren't they? So just make your best guess. I would, if it were me applying, I would apply for 6 months, maybe, or maybe through December.
Yeah.
Again,
we're not saying that this will. Yeah, we're not saying it'll last that long, but go ahead just to hedge your bets.
Yeah.
And clearly state that this is through the end of the calendar year, or this is through September 30th or whatever, just so they understand. Probably would go beyond this end of the calendar year, but just somewhere on the back of the form where you put that information on, I think it's 1368, put through 12/31/2020 or 9/30/2020 or whatever. So if you clearly they know what you provided. And they'll look at the history. What'd you do this time last year? And it might make sense if most people's fiscal year ends the same as the calendar year, and you do January through December over the last 3 years. Go ahead and put through the end of this completed calendar year on the back page on estimating your lost revenues.
Is the term 30 years only, or will it be adjusted based upon the amount requested? Good
question. Yeah, it's based on the amount. You don't want a 30-year loan if you've got say an $8,000 or 30-year term on an $8,000 loan. If you've got a $2 million loan, you want to stretch that out. So that that's all something that they'll talk about. If you think that when it's all said and done, and they say here's the amount, and we'll do this for 15 years, they understand if you have concerns and want to make that perhaps a little longer, or maybe a little shorter. So there's a little bit of communication, perhaps negotiation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really negotiation. They're listening to what you're requesting, that will probably do.
Yeah, and there's no prepayment penalty, so why not stretch it out and pay it off early if you like it.
We have a question here from Valerie Henderson. Hello, Valerie. She says
Valerie.
She says she has a question from someone from the South Central region regarding whether or not the personal guarantee will the loan show up on the credit bureaus because of that personal guarantee.
Yeah.
Anything to comment on, Dave? I've heard both ways. I'm not sure, but again, what might be factual today may not be in a couple of days.
Okay.
So again, the disclaimer is everything we're saying right now is to the best of what we know right now. That may not, that may be something else that has changed. And obviously that's not something we can change. That's, risks and others that may have to deal with it.
Yeah, but I would assume so. If you borrow $25,000 or less, it's unsecured, which means they're not going to report to the credit bureau. So anything above $25,000, you have to have a guarantee, which I'm fairly sure, I would be willing to bet money that they'll report to the credit agencies that, you have that liability.
It's not, maybe I misunderstood. I'm not thinking it's so much of reporting to the Bureau, but how's that going to affect, your credit score and other things? So I'm not sure about that, but you're right, David. It's gonna show up. Whether that's an impact in the future against you, maybe borrowing some other money based on this, I don't know.
Yeah, it could squeeze your credit ability in the future.
Is there a penalty for paying back early? That question comes from Marty Vaughn.
No.
No.
Okay.
No prepayment penalty.
If you have a federal tax lien or owe back payroll taxes, will this affect you being approved in any kind of way?
I don't know. In this situation, I don't know. I can't say for sure there.
Normally it would, and we have heard that if you owe child support or some other things, that's going to be an issue. Back taxes, the amount and all that could be an issue, but let them know. They're going to find out anyway, and if you've got any explanation on it, you can provide that. But the point is, don't opt out just because you think something might happen or not happen. Go ahead and apply.
Right.
I think this is a really good question. This comes from Charles Zimmerman. What do you do if you are denied? Is there a process in place yet?
Yes, actually, it's a great question, Mr. Zimmerman. Yeah, you've got up to 6 months to reapply, provide additional information. So if circumstances change or something that was an issue before, and you should know what those issues or that issue is, you can apply up to or reapply up to 6 months later.
Mindy Jump says, so is it only principal that is deferred for 12 months, or is principal and interest both deferred for 12 months? She said, I heard them say that interest would start accruing, but when does interest have to be paid?
So that would have to,
again. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Mike.
Yes, the interest will begin accruing once you have access to that money. You don't have to pay for 12 months. If you want to start paying early, that could be an option that you could choose to do.
Last question. Where'd it go? Sorry, you all. Okay. Holly Butter says, what is the best way to apply knowing that the website is down? Just keep checking the website until it's back up and running. That's our question.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And we are certainly very sorry about that, but they are working feverishly to try and get it back up. It's just overwhelmed right now. So just check periodically. Remember off-peak times. The call center is open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time. Obviously, the middle part of the day is much heavier. With the website, it's probably similar. So earlier, later in the evening, earlier in the morning, a lot less traffic. So even if you can't submit it today, maybe later this evening, tomorrow morning, early, that sort of thing. We just don't know right now when it will be back up. Hopefully very soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a couple questions here. One in particular, do we have any insight on if any rejections happen and what might cause a rejection for the loan?
I've been aware of has primarily been incomplete application. That's that's been most I've heard. I haven't heard anybody that I've been working with that have said they've been rejected for credit or anything like that. Generally, it's incomplete application.
Okay. Do you need to complete? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Do you need a separate E4506T form for both the individual and the business?
4506.
That's the tax transcript.
Yeah.
No, this is for
all
the.
that I've seen is 4506T. I don't know what the E version of it is.
Yeah. But that's for the individual, for the, request the tax returns for the individual.
Okay. Andrea Ford says, my husband and I are partners in our company. When asking for the personal financial statement, it asks for one for each of us. Do I submit the same information twice?
So if I understand, it's a 50-50 ownership,
Yes.
but they're okay. Just cover your, on that, just submit 2 individual ones. That's probably not necessary based on their circumstances, but I'd rather submit more than not enough.
Okay.
Yeah, both pages, otherwise they're not bad.
Okay. Are there, sorry for the pause you all there, I was trying to read this. So Emily Zink says, are there ongoing requirements to be submitted after loan approval regarding how much of the loan has been used and what it has been used for, and what it was used for? I'm sorry. So
Gosh, that's a new question to me.
Yeah, that I don't know the answer to that either. It doesn't sound like it. I haven't heard any guidance that that would be the case.
Okay.
Right. I haven't either.
I guess like on a construction loan, you have to tell the lender what you spent the money on, provide invoices for what you paid for. But I think again, this is really defined as a working capital loan, which just means it's money to spend to operate on. I don't see where they would require you to submit invoices for things like that. So again,
Okay. Shahid Kamar says, I have a good credit score, but business was in loss in previous years. Can I still apply?
Definitely.
Okay. Can this loan, Charles Berkeley?
Excuse me, just a second, backing up to that. I'm
Okay.
not sure. Is the business no longer in existence, or is it that they had a loss of profit or a loss on the operation of the business?
The way I'm reading it, it says that the business had an operational loss, like a net loss.
Okay, yes, then what David said is, yeah, that's correct. Go ahead and apply. They're not looking at past profit and loss. They're looking at the current situation going forward in the loss of income.
Okay. Charles Berkeley, his question was, can this loan be used for rental property?
Yes.
Assuming that he owns the property and he's losing income because renters can't pay or vacate the premises, yes. This is an exception from what SBA does on the normal lending side, that those types of businesses are not eligible. This is a different circumstance, and they are eligible as owners of the property.
Okay.
Right.
Romello, his question is, do we receive communications upon receiving the application?
Yes, that's a great question. You will get an email back, usually within 24 hours, that they've received it. You'll get when you complete the application, you'll get a message, a screen. You can even print that out, I believe, that says it's been completed. And then you can go back online periodically, and there are 3 circles on the website. The disaster declarations at the far left. Choose Kentucky, EIDL, or coronavirus is how they have it labeled. The middle one is the application. The other one, I think, that's not follow-up, but that's what it communicates, that you can check on the progress. So the little button on the circle on the far right side is where you can check progress.
Yeah.
Okay. William Walker, he says, I have many different apartment buildings, each with their own LLC. Do I have to complete an application for each separate LLC?
Well, if they're a separate EIN number, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's other people who have multiple businesses they own, they're going to submit separate applications as well. So I think unless he rolls it all up under one corporation, as David said, he's going to have to submit separate ones.
Yeah.
So I'm going to Tom Evans asked an interesting question. He says, we have 7 equal partners, but 4 have ownership as an LLC. Will they want 7 tax returns or just the LLC's group's tax returns or the business tax returns?
Wow, pretty complicated there. But you know, the ownership, 20% or more ownership is what they're looking at to submit that information.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would submit the LLC's tax returns, I guess, and if they want more documentation, then they'll ask for it.
Okay. I've been getting a lot of questions over here about this. I understand that if employers continued paying employees and did not lay workers off and do unemployment, the SBA loan may be forgiven. Can you please verify this?
There is no discussion whatsoever of forgivable loans in this situation. I've not heard any of that.
Yeah.
Okay, one last question. Can I use the SBA loan to pay on my current bank line of credit to operate on?
This loan is used just for the operation of this business, not to pay off other debt.
Right. This is to provide capital going forward, not to reorganize your capital structure of your business.
You're not able to consolidate loans and do all that. This, make sure that you're real clear on this. This is for operation of this business going forward. And I think there'll be some clarification as you get closer to completing all of this that will state that.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you want me to continue asking questions, or I've got a few more?
What do you think, Michael? A couple more?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. So could you all go back to the nonprofit question? Because I have quite a few people that are asking about that. The problem that they are saying is that no board member will guarantee a loan. So how will a personal financial statement be completed, in this case, for a private nonprofit?
Well, I can't answer that because I don't know enough about the circumstances of that private nonprofit. And again, the experts are the folks that work at the disaster center. So you can talk with them. We're trying to get as much information compiled for nonprofits. We've never, been in a situation where we've had so many nonprofits that have been impacted. So I cannot answer. I'm sorry, but I just don't know.
Yeah, well, we're going to really try hard to do that question, and then we have everybody we have your contact information. We'll certainly share that with everyone as soon as we have that information.
Okay. We've got time for one more question. Businesses that have an owner with a tax lien, are they still eligible to apply?
I don't know. Normally, no, but I don't know. I would say go ahead and apply and see what happens.
Yeah. Don't know the circumstances. Yeah, don't know the circumstances there. And again, go ahead, as he said, David said, go ahead and apply, and you can provide them some additional information on your circumstances with that tax lien.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Thank you all for answering all of these questions. I'll go ahead and turn it back over to David and Michael. Thank you all.
All right. Thanks for doing that, Tony. You were awesome. I do want to say before we go that I don't know. I really enjoy answering these questions. We're here to help. Also, this is try to tell this to everyone that this is an opportunity to get some money to help your business grow forward, but don't look at it as the only way forward. So make sure you do the hard things in your business. Figure out ways to cut expenses to the bone. Call your bank and ask for forbearance. If you're leasing property, call and ask for a rent abatement. Contact your customers and ask to hold deposits or whatever you can do. The idea is to accumulate as much cash as you can and protect your assets so you can live to fight another day. So Again, the SBA is a great organization, but they may not be the knight in shining armor you think they're going to be. Make sure you do the right things to, to secure your business going forward. So what do you think, Michael?
All great advice. Yeah, you've got to do everything you can in order to get through this. And, most of us will get through this. It won't be easy, but follow their advice and do what you need to do to get to the other side of it. Hopefully that won't be too long before we're all to the other side.
Yeah. Again, our contact info is still up on the screen there. Make sure you contact us. We'd be happy to help. Again, we have centers all across the state. Check out our locations at ksbdc.org. And we'll be sending this information out so that you can access some of these forms if you don't have them. And I guess with that, we're done today, huh, Michael?
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.